What is up, folks, and welcome back for another edition of the ONETA Show. But a little bit different because we're doing a crossover with the ONETA Football Show, which is usually our Thursday show, because it is free agency frenzy over in the NFL today. Or it started as of recording about 8.5 hours ago, and it has been some wild shit. So I wanted to cover it, and I wanted to give you a little bit of taste on the ONETA Show of what the ONETA Football Show every Thursday is like. So without further ado on this wonderful crossover edition of the ONETA and the ONETA Football Show, let's get to it with all these notes ready to go. We had some crazy free agency ads to talk about, some downgrades, some rolling the dice, and we've even had a trade tsunami coming through. So I broke everything down into a couple different categories of stories and storylines I want to talk about, and we are going to cover more on the usual Thursday episode, as we always do here. First story out of the gate, it's the obvious one. The biggest free agent domino to hit was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins here, Kirko Chains as we like to refer to him, longtime Vikings quarterback for the last 6 years. He's moving on down to the Dirty Birds of Atlanta. Kirko Chains' persona fits pretty well there. This immediately makes Atlanta a contender. Not... To my estimation, their team is not good enough for a Super Bowl contention, but they're immediately a playoff contender into a divisional round. Maybe they can make a push higher to an NFC championship. Kirk Cousins is a hell of a quarterback. That's if he is healthy. That's the biggest risk. They got a quarterback that is going to be 36 this season, going off an Achilles tear. That's pretty rough. However, if he comes through, play comes through, and you just get solid quarterback play, that team's going to win 10 to 11 games. They won 8 games, I believe, last year and almost made a playoff run with Desmond Ridder as their quarterback, who is not good. That's me going to the mic, by the way. And, oh yeah, Taylor Heineke was the update. This is a hell of an addition for the Atlanta Falcons. He's the number one domino to hit. And the cool part is what we're going to cover even more on Thursday, unless a trade happens, we got to do something more about it, is the entire quarterback market just blew up. Because with Cousins taking the spot in Atlanta, that takes away most of the major ones for Justin Fields. We know where Russell Wilson's going. He took the second biggest spot for Justin Fields. So where does Justin Fields go? And then all the other quarterbacks that may have been able to pass on to Atlanta to go get a nice little payday and be the bridge between a rookie quarterback and themselves, they all have to go elsewhere now. Some have already started, some already re-signed. But the Kirk Cousins domino has fallen, and now free agency has really started, and that was one of the crazier ones. My wife and I, as soon as she got home after recording, or before recording this, we ate dinner together. Big Packer fans. I said, I have bad news, I have good news, and I have crazy news, and I led crazy news with Kirk Cousins. Because it's a wild assessment. She was shocked by that one, like many fans are going to be. Second biggest one here for me is Saquon Barkley. You want to talk about some crazy shit? New York Giants refused to pay Saquon Barkley their best weapon, their best player, outside of Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence is their actual real best player. You got Saquon Barkley, the only functional member of that offense, for years now. They don't pay him. He's going to play in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the place I currently reside. Not crazy about. But nonetheless, he's going to go play in Philly? I've already seen the crazy stuff, Tiki Barber and other people. I don't know if it's real or not, because who knows what's real on Instagram and Twitter these days, but saying that Giants fans saying that he's dead to them and it's all kind of crazy. Hey man, it's business in the NFL. I don't get it from either angle, actually. Twofold. One, I don't understand how the Giants don't want to pay him. I understand they're strapped for cap with Daniel Jones. You pay Saquon, what can you really do? But that means you have to be good in the draft, and maybe they are crazy with their ability in the draft, which I think is ridiculous because any general manager would like to believe they have faith in their draft. That's one, but I don't get it because it doesn't fit. Two, What does Philly have to do with this? I mean, this is Philly. This is a wild swing by Philly. It's like they lose Jason Kelsey, so you lose your A gap protector immediately. You lose Fletcher Cox on the other side of the ball. Your defense was the travesty last year, and you let Kevin Byard, who you traded for last year, not a lot, but you did give up a draft pick for him. You let Kevin Byard, who was a good safety, walk away from you. And you just had two of your cornerstones of your franchise retire, and there's reports that you are not happy with your younger pass rushers on the team. And you don't go defense. You go, They did go defense with Bryce Huff, who is an inconsistent edge rusher. He does make commotion. He's a good pass rusher, but he's an inconsistent player in general. So they did do that, but we're going to swing for the best running back on the market. It's a big swing. To me, this is a move that signifies two things. One, we want to go compete with the San Franciscos of the world. We want to keep putting Dallas in their place. We want to make sure Green Bay's, the Detroits of the world, they don't keep getting higher unexpectedly, as both did this year. People expected Detroit to make the playoffs. I don't think people expected Detroit to make the NFC Championship game. Nobody expected Green Bay to make the playoffs, let alone be a minute and a half from the NFC Championship game either. So you got young teams on the rise, and I think this is Philly trying to say, we're just going to try to outscore people. And they're going to address the draft through the defense through the draft, I guess. But it's a wild concept. A big swing. It's a great ad offensively. It's just, I don't know where that goes. Another one, this one made me sad because it's a target I would love to have in Bay. As I said, I'm a Packer fan, but Christian Wilkins going to the Raiders. Christian Wilkins is a hell of a defensive lineman. He's a hell of a defensive tackle. Very athletic, good player, solid all the way around. And when I say good, that is an understatement. He's a very, very, very talented player. And he's going to the Raiders. All due respect to Antonio Pierce, who I'm glad he did get the job. He deserved the job after the draft, or after the job he did as the interim coach there this year. Having said that, I don't know what about the Raiders right now tells any player, oh, I got to go to the Raiders. I got to go to the Raiders. Like, no. I mean, he's getting that bag. He's getting paid, and he gets to go live in Vegas. And if that's his speed, that's great. I just don't understand how that one really comes through as a great football move. However, from the standpoint of you get to be across the line with, oh my God, now I'm blanking. It's going to kill me. Max Crosby. Oh my God. That one was going to give me some shit, and I deserved it on that one. You get to play on the same defensive line as Max Crosby. That's pretty rad. And that adds a lot of dimension to that defensive line through capability. So I will say that. That's great on his part. It's a move that I don't know why you leave a team that is trying to make a push now in Miami. I get it, if you can't get paid, you can't get paid. I'm not saying it's his fault he's not in Miami anymore, if you want to be there or not. But you leave Miami, who is at least in playoff contention the last 2 years and is probably going to make the playoffs again this year, most likely. You never know in the AFC, but most likely. And you go to the Raiders, who in my opinion are the second worst team in their own division. And Denver's probably going to get better. Denver did push to make things better. So I just don't get that one necessarily for Christian Wilkins. It's a hell of a pickup for the Raiders. Good for them. It's a great addition for them. Christian Wilkins, $84 million in 4 years says a lot about it, though. So good on Christian Wilkins for chasing that bag. As I said, I'm doing things in categories. Frankie Louvu is a guy I talked about the last couple weeks on the show. I really like Frankie Louvu. There was an insane tweet with the next-gen metrics, and his pass defense as a linebacker was like first in the NFL or something like that. It was insane. It was, I'm going to try to find it right now. But what was cool about it with all those statistics is it really showed his value, because so many people, when they were talking about him was like, oh God, he's so good. He just flies around the field and he makes plays. That's true. That's very, very true. However, this is one I just found it. His target rate amongst linebackers was 16th, so that's pretty good. But his completion percentage as the nearest defender, so ranks among 68 linebackers, and minimum it has to have 20 targets as the nearest defender in coverage during the 2023 season. Completion percentage, first at 56.4. That's a hell of a number. Completion percentage over expected, negative 19.4%. It's a hell of a number. Coverage success rate, 64.1%. That ranked 5th. And receptions over expected, minus 7.6, which ranked 3rd among all eligible linebackers. That's a hell of a pickup for Washington, who was losing a lot of pieces over the last year. You lose Chase Young. You lose Montez Sweat. You weren't crazy about some of your draft picks. You're going through, and hell, it's looking like you got yourself a hell of a player in Frankie Louvu to go out. That's a great addition in my mind. And a lot of people may say, oh, you're biased for Frankie Louvu. I am. But that's what watching football from a scouting perspective or an analyst perspective, that's what it does. There are players you come to love and players you come to not love or dislike or even hate from that perspective. It doesn't mean you dislike the guy or you hate the guy or you love the guy. But when it comes to the play on the field, he's a hell of a player, and I love the guy from play perspective on the field. And it's a hell of a pickup for Washington, who needs defensive help after they went all in on defense during the Ron Rivera era. And outside of 1 year, they were kind of a disappointment all the time. Here, it's not. So, there you go. It's kind of like what's going on. That another one is great. Another great ad that people are going to shit all over. And I'm not going to shit over it because I think it's a great addition. But it's more so from the standpoint of finance and competition, is Russell Wilson. If you caught my episode a couple weeks back, I ranked all the current quarterbacks in the NFL. That was almost a month ago now. It was right about the cusp of when we launched the show. And I did the current quarterbacks starting in the NFL at the time, coming out of the season. Russell Wilson was not high on that list for good reason. You know who was even lower on that list? The team he was going to with Kenny Pickett. Like I said, scouting perspective, you don't dislike the person or you don't love the person. You might fall in love with the person scouting if you are able to interview them, get to know them, or you have personal interaction with them or just like the way they handle themselves. Very rarely, in a scouting perspective, do you just dislike a person. So this is not a knock on Kenny Pickett, the human being. I don't know Kenny Pickett. I don't know anyone in the NFL outside of very few players that I've had the fortune to have a random run-in with, and I can't even remember if there's an active player I've had an active run-in with in any way, shape, or form the last couple of years. It's only because I've been around sporting facilities and other things during my time, so I may have an interaction or two from time to time, but it's very rare. I'm not some crazy insider with all this like, oh my God, I'm around these players. But it's a long-winded way to say, I don't know Kenny Pickett, but on the field, Kenny Pickett's not a good player. In fact, I think his quarterbacking, strictly the quarterbacking, sucks. And I think Pittsburgh was crazy for drafting him. Kenny Pickett was pretty much on my do not draft unless it gets to like the 4th round list. That is how low I was on Kenny Pickett coming out of the draft. Russell Wilson is better than that. Russell Wilson, let him do a little bit and keep a reasonable amount of reins on him, hand the ball off to Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, and just throw balls up for Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, and let the defense go to work. That can work. That can make a fringe playoff team for Pittsburgh. maybe win a game into the divisional round. I don't think that's crazy because it's kind of the Seattle thing all over again. Put him in an offense with pieces, give him the ability to make a few plays, likes to do, control his output offensively, and let the defense go to work. And Pittsburgh has a hell of a defense. That can work. That can really, really work. So I think it's a hell of a pickup. And financially, they're going to pay him like $1.2 million out of the $39 he's owed. So Denver's going to be paying $37.8 million of his contract for you. Just financially, that makes all the sense in the world. I love the pickup for Pittsburgh. I usually don't like a lot of Pittsburgh's pickups, but I'll give him credit on this one. I think it's quite good. Finally, another great ad I think you got to add is Xavier McKinney. Yeah, we're going to talk trades, and there are some great ads forward in trades, but a great ad is Xavier McKinney. Green Bay's defensive backfield, they had surprising corner play, and until Darnell Savage kind of showed out in a few moments towards the end of the season, safety play was not great. Safety play was, I don't want to say hamstringing them, but it was not positive, or was not a force multiplier for good. Xavier McKinney's a hell of a player when he's healthy. And he's coming back into health now. Got the bag for a good reason. I think he's a hell of a player. Yes, am I biased because I'm a Packer fan? But this is analysis. And I'm about to say a negative that the Packers did as well. But I think it's a hell of a pickup. He's a good player, and he's going to help that back end of the defense. I really like the pickup. I think he's more that thumper and enforcer type, but has a little bit of ball hawk in him. He has the ability to make a play on the ball, which is what Green Bay needs. They need some people on the backside to help out a little bit. Let's just hope, Packer fans, that we get Keyshawn Nixon back in that slot simply so we can have a great kick returner and just another guy that has confidence out there. That is my great additions section. And before we move on, I got to ask you guys for a little bit of help here. That is, go to my Etsy shop. Go over to ptcreative.etsy.com and you can get all kinds of fun merch for yourself. We have football-related merch. We got all kinds of stuff. In fact, why don't I just take you there as much as I possibly can? But I can't right. That's okay. But go check it out. We've got cool stickers for some fan bases in the NFL, and we got more stuff coming soon. We got Pokemon-related merchandise. We got National Parks-related merchandise. We got all kinds of fiction-related merch. It's fun stuff all around. And if you want anything or you see something you like but it's not perfect for you, just message me in the shop, and I'll try to help you out as much as possible if you have an idea. I am taking a little bit of commission work right now, so if you have something you want to see, please head on over to ptcreative.etsy.com. Message me there or throw a message in the comment section on YouTube, and I'll try to help you out as best as I possibly can. But we got to get back to free agency because it has been some wild and crazy shit today. So now here is some of the crazier stuff that I have. It's downgrades and roll the dice. I'm going to actually save keep your own for the following show on Thursday because you're going to see Jones in there, Baker Mayfield, AJ Epinesa, some other guys like that. It's been wild how many people are leaving their team in free agency, bigger names in free agency leaving than staying. But so the guys that are staying, we're going to keep for Thursday's show for a bigger storyline and news and updates. So I'm going to go to downgrades here, and I'm going to lead right away with my beloved Green Bay Packers. Josh Jacobs, essentially for Aaron Jones, is essentially what they did with their signings today. Josh Jacobs is not a bad back. He's coming off of a down year, so to speak. Josh Jacobs on a good team is a good running back. I thought this before he was in Green Bay. I don't think he's the talent that Aaron Jones is even now. I know and understand Aaron Jones has had some health issues over the past year and has been nicked up a little bit in the past before that as well, but Aaron Jones is a hell of a player, especially catching the ball out of the backfield, but making these springing runs for 10, 15, 20 yards that you're expecting 3 out of. Aaron Jones will impress you with those. I see more of that out of Aaron Jones than I do Josh Jacobs. which leads to the question, for $17.7 million, is it worth it to go get Josh Jacobs on a 4-year deal for $48 million, which is $12 million average for a running back, when you already had a more talented running back? Is there really nothing you guys could have done to help yourselves out and keep Aaron Jones and keep the continuity of that offense as Jordan Love continues to develop? Obviously, the young receiving core is all going to stay, and that's great. But you're losing one of the offensive leaders that brought you a lot of continuity in that offense. And things really started clicking when Aaron Jones was able to get back in the lineup. So, to me, that's a downgrade. All due respect to Josh Jacobs, who I'm happy he's a Packer. I just don't like what comes with that. What do you lose to get Josh Jacobs in the building? Obviously, I hope it works out for everybody. I hope not only does Josh Jacobs become a great player for Green Bay and the offense works well, but I hope Aaron Jones goes out and finds a team that's worthwhile and he gets the bag. And somehow if he can come back to Green Bay, great. I'd be happy. That's me dreaming because it isn't going to happen. But nonetheless, I don't like the downgrade at that position. That to me is another downgrade in free agency. Second downgrade, we'll stay with the running backs. Tony Pollard for Derrick Henry. Tony Pollard was a disappointment last year in Dallas. He needed a balancing act, I think. A lot of people are like, oh, it's all because of Ezekiel. I don't think it's because Ezekiel Elliott specifically was there. But I don't think Tony Pollard is a feature back. Does that make sense? He's not a singular back. He belongs as a possible lead back in a 1-2 punch offense with the running back by committee style offense. That's where Tony Pollard belongs. He doesn't belong in the single bell cow feature back role. And you're losing Derrick Henry, who's one of the best players in the entire history of your franchise. Now, I've been of the opinion the last couple of years, Derrick Henry, the wheels are going to fall off. And now I've just stopped because I'm like, I keep getting proven wrong. Got to credit the guy. He's on trajectory to make the Hall of Fame for a reason. Derrick Henry's a hell of a back. And I hope he gets the bag, and I hope he gets paid, and I hope he goes to a contender to make it worthwhile so he may be able to win a Super Bowl for his career to really solidify it. But nonetheless, I think Tony Pollard for Derrick Henry at this moment is a downgrade. I hope for Tennessee's sake I'm proven wrong. I don't think I'm going to be proven wrong. I just don't think Tony Pollard is that guy. Now, if they go get a second back, change of pace, they go get one of the featured running backs. For instance, there's a kid coming out of Florida State. It's Troy something. Oh, God, it's going to kill me. He looks like a good back. There's a kid out of Kentucky I like, or out of Louisville, one of the two. Good back. Or Tennessee. One of the three. I don't know. But I haven't been fully scouting running backs quite yet. I'm in the quarterback market right now for scouting. So those are good pieces to have if he's a change of back. But I don't think he's a feature back. I just don't think so. We're going to say downgrade Tennessee Titans, Tony Pollard for Derrick Henry. And finally, the big downgrade for me, I think this is actually the biggest downgrade for positional value that you can get. Not that you can get, but that is currently on the market. And to me, it's Jonathan Grenard for Danielle Hunter. Now, Jonathan Grenard is coming off a hell of a season with the Texans. He was a troublemaker down in Houston in the best ways possible. He was fucking the play up. He was doing really, really well in Houston. But Danielle Hunter, when healthy, and he has been healthy the vast majority of his career, has been an absolute game-changing force for the Minnesota Vikings. Danielle Hunter is a top 10 pass rusher in my mind. I'd have to really sit down and do the list, but I can't think of 10 guys ahead of him. I can think of a couple for sure, but I can't think of 10 guys right off the top of my head where it's like, oh, so much better than Danielle Hunter. No, Danielle Hunter is a hell of a player. There's a reason that outside of Kirk Cousins and Chris Jones, real free agency starts with Danielle Hunter for many people. He's a hell of a player, and he deserves to go get the bag. So I hope he hits bank, especially if Minnesota's going to go up and get Jonathan Grenard or go get, and they got Andrew Van Ginkel, which another good player. I don't think the tandem of Grenard and Van Ginkel is bad. I think that's good pickups for Minnesota if you can't get Daniil Hunter. But I don't think you can say in Minnesota losing Daniil Hunter and replacing him with another player that isn't his caliber isn't a downgrade. All due respect to Jonathan Grenard, he's a good player and he's had a great season last year. But he's not Daniil Hunter. Straight up. So to me, I'm a huge fan of Daniil. So to me, it's a downgrade. And I think you got to focus on that as you're moving through agency. Are you signing guys to sign guys, or are you signing to really improve your team in spots and splashes? Those are big things that I got 3 guys I wanted to talk about here as they roll the dice guys for different reasons. One being, we'll stay in the division of the NFC North, Marcus Davenport. The Lions, if you watch the Lions, obviously defense is the struggle. So Aiden Hutchinson is a good player, but he needs help. I don't think he's the game changer everyone thought he could be coming out of the draft. There's obviously still plenty of time in his career to do that, but I don't think he's the game-changing edge rusher that Detroit thought they were getting immediately. And so they went and rolled the dice and got Marcus Davenport. While Marcus Davenport was playing last season, he was good. But he's failed to stay healthy and he has never really hit that real potential that everyone thought he did. He's the classic example of overdrafted based on potential, and he's not delivering. Where if he was just a second or third round guy in the draft, people would go, "Oh, he's a great value add. That's great value add right there. He's a good role player for you." That's not what it is. But it's rolling the dice with his health and the production. When healthy, he's been getting better and he could be a good player. But it's the roll of the dice to see if the health's going to go out and if you're going to get the results you want on the back end of your defense or in the front end of your defense. And I appreciate the roll of the dice if you can get him for the right price. I did not get the contract deals on Marcus Davenport. My apologies on it. But if you've got that going all the time, and my apologies, I'm just getting the feed going. Something for you guys. If that happens, you've got to be smart about what you're doing, and I think it's a roll of the dice to see if you're actually going to get the output you need for Detroit. That's my big thing with a move like that, and it's about where it is. Marcus Davenport free agency. Marcus Davenport as a free agent is that classic guy that's in every free agency draft class, where it doesn't work out with the first team, doesn't work out with the second team, but he's young enough, he shows enough there to go, keep rolling the dice, keep rolling the dice, keep rolling the dice. We'll see if it pans out for him. Second guy I have here is Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt is a good guard out of Miami. He played for Miami the last couple of years. Now he's going to Carolina, but he just got $20 million a year for 5 years. Now, granted, obviously, contract numbers are all kind of fake to a degree unless you're Kirk O'Chains in Minnesota getting full and guaranteed contracts. But he's getting $100 million. That's a roll of the dice for me because I don't think he's the guard that is worthy of a 9-figure contract. He's a good player. And I love the fact that Carolina said, we got to keep Bryce Young upright. If we don't, we're fucked. If your quarterback is down on the ground, guess what? Most likely you're going to lose the goddamn game. So from that end, I respect the fact that Carolina said, well, we need to go get someone to protect him. The problem is, still don't have tackles. Ike Ekwonu hasn't panned out for you. In fact, I think he went down in quality instead of up in quality last year. And everything else across that line was not good at all. So Robert Hunt, I think, is an improvement and is good for Carolina to get, but it is a roll of the dice with that much money. That is we are paying the Carolina Panthers tax, and we are paying we got to make this draft pick tax because we got to make this pick work tax. Because if Bryce Young doesn't work, it resets in a negative way. It takes you back 5 years again for the Carolina Panthers. and I've said it in podcasts before, I still think Bryce Young can be a good player. He's one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback I think I've ever evaluated when I'm purely watching it. The tape as a scout. He's possibly the best quarterback I ever scouted. When I say scouted, I've been really, really, really scouting since 2020. It's him or Joe Burrow, really. Except maybe this year. We'll talk about that next week. But I still think he can pan out. But it's a roll of the dice to take a player like Robert Hunt, who's he's a good 2 or 3 lineman on your line. You don't want him to be the best part of your line, because that usually means your line's not as much as it needs to be, and pay him $100 million. That's where the roll of the dice comes in. But good on them for understanding that's what their priorities are, is helping Bryce Young develop and become a quarterback in this league. And that I respect, so it's a roll of the dice. And finally, this one isn't going to seem like a roll of the dice, and the player himself is not a roll of the dice, but what the player means on your team is. It's Gardner Minshew. So the Raiders, as always, are stuck in quarterback purgatory. You have Jimmy G still technically under contract, although all of his guaranteed money is now voided, and it is not fully guaranteed any longer. And he's probably not going to be on the team. You have Aiden O'Connell, who could be a serviceable backup, but he's not a starting quarterback. And now you have Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew as a bridge quarterback is serviceable. Gardner is not really the problem here. The problem is you're stuck at 13, and now you have, let's just go through the list here. Chicago's taking a quarterback. Washington's taking a quarterback. New England should take a quarterback. There's rumors that maybe not, but they're going to take a quarterback. Okay? The Giants need a quarterback. 4 teams right there. Oh, Atlanta doesn't need to take any quarterback anymore. That's great. Awesome. Oh, wait. Minnesota's at 11. They need a quarterback. Also, I don't think it's going to happen because they have GM, former Green Bay Packer Aaron Rodgers as their GM. Jets at 10. People are going to say it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy if they take a quarterback. I don't think they should take a quarterback. I'm not saying they should. But I don't think it's crazy if they're like, dude, we got to get ready. We have Aaron here, and it didn't work out with Zach. We want someone to sit behind Aaron. I don't think that's crazy. So you have 5, 6 teams all ahead of you in the draft. You don't have the guy there. Gardner Minshew's not a franchise quarterback. Aiden O'Connell's not a franchise quarterback. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not a franchise quarterback. He showed that every time he was in San Francisco, that he was good, not great. So what does that tell you? It tells you, hey, I don't have my franchise quarterback. I got to go find one. Problem being, when you do that, you need to go draft one, and you're stuck in no man's land. So that's why I call it the roll of the dice. You're paying a player and giving yourself, hey, if it doesn't work out, we got Gardner. Now with Minnesota not having a quarterback, unless something crazy happens with Justin Fields, or an even crazier trade happens, which I don't think it's going to, who in the market is there for Minnesota? Minnesota's going to have to go take a quarterback now. Who in the market is going to go, who are you going to go find? I don't think you got one. So therein lies the problem. Good guys in the market are already out free agency-wise, so you've got to go to the draft to go address the problem. You might say we're going to roll the dice with Gardner Minshew. More power to you. I don't think that's going to work out franchise-wise, but I think, could he get you a competitive run? Maybe, but not in the AFC. Sorry, you're in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. Gardner Minshew's not your answer. Denver's going to get better and draft a young quarterback who's also ahead of you at 12. I forgot about Denver. Your division rival is 1 spot ahead of you. The only thing good about Denver is they probably don't have as much capital as you do to go and get somebody because they used it all on Russell Wilson. So there's a lot of problems there. And that's why I call the Gardner Minshew signing a roll of the dice. It's not Gardner specifically as the player. It's what does Gardner signing say for the Las Vegas Raiders? It says you're going to be stuck in purgatory again, most likely, unless you just go up and get a guy. Now, I'm going to reveal my quarterback rankings next week. That's going to be next week's show. Spoiler for you. Next week's show is the first pure scouting episode that we are going to have. But if I'm just going off of experts, there is 3 for sure first round picks. There's 3 guys that could be first round picks, maybe early seconds. That doesn't leave a lot of room if you got that many guys, got that many teams that are in the quarterback market. That is concerning, and that's why there's the roll of the dice here with Gardner Minshew. That is something you got to be worried about. And we have one final category, but before you get there, I just want to ask, entertainment-wise, I hope you're enjoying this crossover, by the way, but you should enjoy more stuff from PT Creative. As you can see on screen here, if you're watching, PT release schedule, we got new shows coming Monday through Friday every single week. Monday, you're going to get that nice Pokemon pack opening, which did release today right before the recording of this episode. Tuesday, it's the ONETA Show, which you're listening to right now, even though it's kind of the crossover with the ONETA Football Show on Thursday. And we are continuing our Smash Bros. Series. The new fighters, the end of the new fighters discussion for Smash Bros. Is going to be next week's episode. It was going to be this week's, but I pushed it because free agency was just getting so crazy. So I wanted to do a nice little crossover episode here to give everyone a taste of what the football show is on every Thursday. Wednesdays, it's Pokemon Bliss and Oblivion. Get new videos for that now. It's a fun project with all kinds of cool stuff there. Thursday, it's what you're listening to kind of right now. It's the ONETA Football Show. We're talking pro football. Just football in general. It's not always pro football, but it's a lot of pro football here on the channel. Like I said, next week, you are getting my scouting quarterback rankings. It's going to be a fun one, too. Check out the ONETA Football Show, and you're still going to get another free agency edition of the show Thursday for this week. So the ONETA Football Show Thursday. Friday, it's the Adventure Show, and which is all about different places that you can go, travel to, have an adventure for yourself. I'm sharing my own personal adventures and travels there. The ONETA Brick Builder Show, which is all about building Lego sets, enjoying the fun and the creativity of Lego. Oh, by the way, that first episode is dropping this Friday, so go check out the Brick Builder Show, or you might get some Pokemon pack openings, and we're getting some wild and crazier stuff in there. Diving back into the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm doing some more specialty events coming soon, so check out Fridays as well. It's a fun little rotation here on the channel. But go find some more entertainment. I think you found your home here. Just keep clicking that subscribe button as much as you can, and check out PT Creative for more and more entertainment. Finally, last thing we got to cover here, because it was wild and crazy. The morning started crazy, like, whoa, Russell Wilson signed, and then it was like Kirk Cousins immediately. Like, the window happened, it's like, I'm going to Atlanta, which is insane. But trade tsunami. Not really a trademark, but a trademark to the Around the NFL podcast. By the way, great show. You should go listen to it. Absolutely adore the Around the NFL podcast, and I cannot wait for these episodes this week because it's going to be fun. You got to start with the biggest trade of the day. It's Brian Burns. That one happened 3 hours before I recorded. I got home and I left work. The last thing I did at work was checked what happened. Kind of was up to date. Got home from work, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? What? And it's a steal of a trade. Carolina, you can tell they're desperate, and they need draft capital. The fact that Brian Burns was in a trade, and it was not for at least one first-round pick, floored me. But he was franchised by Carolina. Apparently, the Rams were going to offer 2 first-round picks, and Carolina said no. They're regretting that deal now. But the Giants, they lose Saquon Barkley. Okay. You lose Xavier McKinney. Okay. Those are hits to get a big win back at the end of the day by getting a premier pass rusher who's probably going to have the most value of the 3 players that we just discussed as former Giants and now future Giants, Brian Burns is probably the best one out of the three. That's good. And you're only trading a second and a fifth. That's great. The only thing I think negative about that trade is that does take some ammo away if you want to trade up, go get a quarterback, which means I don't know if they're going to go take a quarterback. I think they're going to run Daniel Jones one more year, which I don't know about that, but they should be in the quarterback market. And apparently, rumors are from the combine they're done with Daniel Jones. So I still think quarterback's in play. But now you just took a second round pick out of your arsenal to trade up. So, and when you're trading for quarterbacks, you have to pay the additional tax of the quarterback. So that is one thing to be concerned about if you're a Giants fan out of the trade. But you should be all, it should be all smiles and giggles right now for Giants fans through that trade because Brian Burns is a hell of a pickup. Carolina. He's a hell of a pass rusher. Good player. Another good trade here, Carlton Davis from the Tampa Bay. He's going to Detroit. And it was crazy, kind of the compensation. Carlton Davis got paid, I believe, last year or the year before. One of the two. He's a good player, not crazy good, but it does improve the cornerback position for Detroit, who's clearly now in we're winning a Super Bowl mode. So they trade a third-round pick for Carlton Davis, but they get Carlton Davis, a sixth round this year, and a sixth round next year back. That, to me, is a hell of a trade. You're getting 2 draft picks back, so you get more draft capital. Granted, it's not the same as a third-round pick. Third-round pick and a sixth-round pick, very different. But you get 2 draft picks back, and you get a good corner. I would do that trade. As long as my financial book said it as a GM, I would do that trade. I think that's a great trade. So good on Detroit to go make that one. So good for Detroit. Carlton Davis is a good player. Coming to them. Now you get to the little bit of crazy ones. It's the quote-unquote failed prospect trades. Mac Jones leaving New England to go to Jacksonville, which I didn't know was his hometown, but going to Jacksonville for a 6th-round pick. Why Jacksonville? Jacksonville making the move makes no sense to me. But good on Mac Jones to finally escape. He needed a new scenery. I think I'm finally out on Mac Jones. I did like him coming out in the draft. He was my 3rd quarterback there behind Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. I liked Mac Jones at Alabama, and I thought his rookie year kind of showed, hey, yeah, you can win with Mac Jones. Don't understand it from Jacksonville's perspective, who has Trevor Lawrence, but 6th-round pick, taking a flyer on another guy, be a good backup for you, or maybe he's got to fill in, looks good, and people go, see, there's Mac Jones. It was all New England's problem. They screwed him up. Maybe you can flip him for 5th, 4th. He plays crazy good, maybe even a 3rd. Don't think that's going to happen, but possibility. And crazier things have happened in the NFL with flipping quarterbacks. And hell, Green Bay was doing it my entire childhood. They would just take late-round draft picks at quarterback position and then just flip them for higher draft picks. Like Matt Hasselbeck, Aaron Brooks, Mark Brunell. Like, they just kept flipping guys for higher picks because that's what Green Bay did. They were a quarterback factory, and none of them were going to play except Brett Favre. So that's what Green Bay did. And it was a hell of a strategy by Ron Wolf, and that's why he's a Hall of Fame GM. But it's a smart strategy if you're looking at it from that perspective. I just don't know what you really get from Mac Jones right now. So to me, especially a team with Jacksonville that kind of cratered a little bit last year after a decent run, why screw it up and give draft capital away when you need more lottery tickets to get back into the running in a very competitive AFC? So that one, a little wonky on that one. And then the guy who was classic potential, Jerry Jeudy, coming out of the 2020 draft. Jerry Jeudy was thought to be the receiver in that draft. History has shown it's CeeDee Lamb at this point. Well, it's actually Justin Jefferson, but I forgot. It's always the conversation was always the big 3. It's Jerry Jeudy, it's Henry Ruggs, and it's CeeDee Lamb. It's Justin Jefferson by leaps and bounds, and then it's CeeDee Lamb, and then it's really Henry Ruggs was a better player. But he's now ruined his life and ruined a lot of other people's lives, unfortunately, which absolutely sucks. And Jerry Jeudy's just never really panned out. So, fifth and a sixth for Jerry Jeudy. I guess rookie contract. Maybe just Denver wasn't the spot for him. But it's a flyer. It's a toss up. But a fifth and a sixth to get back for Denver, I think that's big for Jerry Jeudy. Good on them for just unloading against draft capital. And then there's the potential ones, and I'm hoping we got some juice for the rest of the week out of these two topics. Number one, T. Higgins requested a trade today. T. Higgins, first player franchise tagged. I thought that was as simple as, we want to pay you to stay. We're going to try to win a championship with you, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. I thought it was that simple, and I didn't know T. Higgins was a guy that... I didn't think T. Higgins was going to be the guy that says no. He's now requested a trade. This could be truly just... This could now be the classic contract play, but it's the wrong franchise to play that with. One, historically, they've always made everyone play out their contracts. They are modernizing now, but Mike Brown specifically, their owner, is famous for making Carson Palmer play out his deal and just refusing to trade him even though he wanted to get traded. After he tried so hard for everything in that franchise, he said Carson made a commitment. They forced him to play out as much as they could, or they just had him sit. Now you have T. Higgins asking for it. I think this is contractual. The problem is, I don't think, unless you're just deciding you don't want to have a defense or you don't want to have pieces around those two guys on offense, I don't see how you pay Joe Burrow money. He got paid. Jamar Chase is going to get a bigger contract next year, which means number is going to be even higher because that's going to be the receiver market. B, he's a better player than T. Higgins and more crucial to that offense. Ergo, the number is going to be even bigger than T. Higgins. And T. Higgins wants top of the market wide receiver money, which I understand. He's a hell of a player. He's coming out in free agency as the number one free agent wide receiver. Of course, he's going to want to get top of the market receiver money. So does a trade actually come? I think it's a contractual play. I don't understand doing it now versus doing it 2 weeks ago when he got tagged. However, hell of a play on his part to make some money. Or hell of a play on his part to go get traded and go get the money and maybe get to a better or worse situation for himself to go be the number one receiver and really set him up to have higher production value forward in his career because he's the number one guy, so he's going to get fed more targets. But you never know. I've already seen someone, I think it was Shannon Sharp earlier, say, Kansas City's got to go get him. I would love that trade as someone who really loves watching Kansas City football. Outside of watching Green Bay Packer football, the only thing that makes me happy in the NFL, the only thing that is more fulfilling as a fan than watching Kansas City Chiefs football is watching Green Bay Packer football. Patrick Mahomes is by far my favorite player. It's like watching a non-problematic Brett Favre. And he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Yes, I said it. I meant it. And I do it every week. And I don't care. I don't care because it's true. There's no way. If you're going to trade T. Higgins and you're the Bengals, there's no way you trade him to your number one in-conference rival right now and say, hey, by the way, I know you're trying to win a third Super Bowl. Would you like to make it a lot easier by giving one of our best players to catch the football over to you? And he can go play with the best quarterback to ever play the position? They're not going to do that. Would it be awesome? Of course it would be awesome, but they're not going to do that. That's insane. But let the speculation begin. Let's see who can get him if the trade's going to happen. I think it's all contractual, but who knows? And finally, there are rumors on 4 of arguably the 5 best players on the Chargers. Outside of Justin Herbert, who's obviously their best player. Then you go to the Rashawn Slaters, and Derwin James is in the argument. But it's fire sale possibly in Los Angeles from the Chargers. Joey Bosa is apparently up for discussion. Khalil Mack's up for discussion. Keenan Allen's up for discussion, and Mike Williams is up for discussion. Mike Williams, I get. High price tag, not a lot of production because of the injury history. Keenan Allen, getting older. I understand it, but Khalil Mack, hell of a good player for them. Really good production. High price tag, aging veteran. Joey Bosa can't stay on the field. To me, he's wildly overrated. Not because he's not a good player when he plays, but he never plays. It's more David Bakhtiari again. Which, by the way, Green Bay did the right thing, releasing him. I know it's sad and it sucks because he's a good player when he's healthy, but he can't play anymore because he's never healthy. It's the same thing with Joey Bosa. The guy's never on the field. Ever. When he plays, yeah, oh great, Joey Bosa's in the game. Oh my God. Joey Bosa, great player, great player. He is when he's on the field, but he's never on the field. Ever. Broski is allergic to the field for more than 3 or 4 games at a time. He gets nicked up all the time. With all due respect to him, it's that has been his career. You're paying him top of the line pass rusher money. That is big chunks of change. So if you can offload one of those guys, you can take any of those guys off your books. That's huge. But if you could take a Joey Bosa off your books, holy shit, your books look a lot better. Just financially. So it's Charger fire sale time possibly with Jim Harbaugh constantly saying, changing, rattling the cages and possibly making some changes there. I hope shit happens just so we have some fun stuff to talk about and see where the Chargers are going. And that would mean some crazy, crazy shit for the Chargers. And maybe turning a corner from woulda, coulda, shouldas to, oh shit, they might make a push here to win a Super Bowl. So we'll see how Jim Harbaugh is going to do things with his new GM there. But we'll see how it all goes with, I think his name is Joe Ortiz from the Ravens is now his GM. It's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun to see if anything happens out of Los Angeles with those guys. But that is going to do it for this show, the ONETA Show on Tuesday with the crossover. So here with the ONETA Football Show. I hope you guys enjoyed this little crossover. If you did, go check out the ONETA Football Show every Thursday on the channel. We're going to have some more free agency notes and some cool stuff this week. Then go to the quarterback rankings next week on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. The quarterbacks being prospects coming out in this year's 2020 draft, which is going to be really, really fun and enjoyable. Can't wait to share those rankings with you. And eventually we're getting into mock draft season and things of that nature. So check that out on Thursdays. To get back on pace, we are going back to finish the Smash Bros. Fighter conversation. So we're adding new fighters to a potential Smash Bros. Reboot, which we've been discussing on the show off and on for the last 2 months now, I guess, since we really started the show. And that's going to be fun and enjoyable for everyone. So go check that out. And if you could, please like, comment, subscribe. Follow us wherever you can. PT Creative, we love making this content for you. So please go do all those things to help us make better content for you. And always go to the Etsy shop and go get some merch for yourself. But I appreciate you doing that. I'm going to give you one little reminder for the Etsy shop as I roll out of here. Thank you so much for watching, football fans. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for our normal viewers for watching. And if you're listening wherever you can find this and not watching, I appreciate your ears listening to this show. Go check out the Etsy shop, and thank you so much. Peace, love, and hugs to everyone. Peace.